Okay, this is a quick walkthrough of the Unit 6 lab. So first thing we're going to do is start up our Raspberry Pi and open a command line to it and try out some of these different commands here. So here's my Raspberry Pi here. I'm going to actually, I think I'm going to redo these windows a little bit so I can see. Okay, so here's my Raspberry Pi. Here I'm going to open up a command prompt here and try out some of these commands. We're looking at some of the disk and memory usage and disk and memory optimization stuff. So DU will look at all the space in all of the files and folders here. It's not that great, so I can type du.h to get it in human readable format. It'll tell me how many K or meg are in each file. For this, I can also type in du, I think -s to do a summary, -s -h, and that'll put it in, machine readable, human readable form here. So again, most of these commands are the command and then space, and then for the options I do a dash and a letter like -s or -s if I want another one, -h here. For this. Now, if you're doing Windows or DOS and things like that, often it's a command, space, and then a slash, and then the options. But in Linux, we do this command. Similarly, we can look at disk free, df command. We can type in df, and it'll just say which folder, which files are out here, and how much space is free with them. These are the different disks out here, different devices, and this is where they're mounted, what folder they kind of appear on. So similar, like you can put in a drive in the in Windows, and it'll show up as a C or D or K or some other drive. With Linux, when you install a drive, it'll be mounted on one of the root folders here. Okay, I can also look at memory. I can type in free to see free memory. So it'll tell me how much memory I have, how much total memory I have. I have 4 gigs here. I wonder if there's a free -h. Yeah. Okay, that's a more human readable version of it. So again, I have about just under 4 gig here. Used is about 200 and or 328 meg. Free is about 208 gig. There's some shared. There's some available in buffers and caches, and we've been talking about those. Those to speed up the operation of different things. I/O buffers, caches. Now these are not in the CPU. The caches aren't level 1, 2, or 3 generally inside the CPU, but these are some special other caches that'll use to kind of speed up some of this disk and memory access here. There's also some swap space out here that's used to swap for memory usage there. So that's what we have now. There's a who or the w command, so I can type in who or w, and that'll just show who's logged into my session here. And I'm actually logged in as CSS user, but I also have another account right now logged in here so we can see. But you probably just will have one person logged in for this account. Last thing, I can look at the memory usage. There's a file out here in /proc, and I'm just going to say more. And the folder is the /proc folder, and the file name is mem.info. So I'm just going to do that, and I did more, so it'll let me page through and see the different memory amounts. And so this is much more detailed information about actual buffers, actual caches, swap caches, other memories and information. We're not going to go into too much detail on what this all means, but you can look through that. So we just want you to do some of these commands here, and then do a screenshot of some of these commands that are running here. So that's fine. So just take a screenshot to show that you went through and looked at some of these commands here. Okay. Now we're going to talk about connecting into your Raspberry Pi through secure Shell SSH. And this is how we can create, when we're on our Raspberry Pi, this is our console window, but if we're not on our Raspberry Pi, we want to create a similar connection onto this. So we're going to want to go to our configuration and make sure that it is configured for this. So So the first thing we want to do is make sure we have some users added in here, um, and that we know the user password here. So I'm going to go up here. Well, first I'm going to look in what I'm logged in. I'm logged in as CSS user here, and on my Raspberry Pi. So that's the user account I'm logging into. I'm going to go to Preferences, Configuration, click on that. I have to log in, possibly, to open up those preferences. And here they are. Different tabs up here. Under the System tab, I can change my password. So if you're probably automatically logging in right here, so it automatically logs you into this user every time. You may not even remember your password, so you can change it. So if I hit change password, I can type in CSS user, or I like to make a generic user called CSS user with the password CSS user. So that's what I'm making here. So again, you can re-enter a password here, and okay. So now you'll know for this user, and in my case it's CSS user, yours might be just called Pi or something like that, what the password is, because you've reset it there. You should make note of that. So I'm just going to make a note up here in my notepad. My username is CSS user, and my password was CSS user for this. Okay, now I'm going to go down here. I'm actually going to create another user because later on we'll use this. I'm going to create a remote user here for this. So I'm going to type in this command here to add a remote user. So I'm going to go back to my Pi here, open up my console here, hit a couple spaces, sudo for super user, add user, and I'm going to make a user called remote user so I can connect remotely into this with a special user account. I have to enter my password for my current account because I'm not set up as a super user. And again, normally this would work. I've already done this, so it says remote users already exists here. And again, if I wanted to make remote user a super user, I would do this command here. I would do sudo, run this as super user, add user, and then my username, and then add them to the super user group here. Add them to the super user group here. I'm going to make sure, yes, so it should add that user to the super user group. Okay, so again, if you want to create a couple more users, you can and set them up that way. Okay, now we're going to also enable secure shell here. So again, we're going to go back to our configuration stuff. Again, that's preferences. This Raspberry Pi configurator opens this up. We're going to go to interfaces and make sure secure shell is turned on. We want this to be on here. Okay, so and then hit OK. That'll make sure that's on. Okay, we want to find the address of this. So there's a couple ways of finding the address. I'm going to move this over just a little bit more. The way it suggests here is just look for the host name. Now that just decides the host name. We want the address, so I'm going to say host name minus capital I, which will tell me the IP address. There's also a command called ifconfig to show you the whole web internet configuration stuff, and that would show your IP address. But again, let's go back and do this host name minus I. So this is my address. I'm going to just note that so I have that here. Okay. So now I can do that. Now I'm going to open up a PowerShell prompt or something like that. So I'm going to go to Windows and I'm going to start typing in power and select the PowerShell window. Bring that over here. So this is connecting up. And again, I'm going to do my this command. I'm going to go to secure shell, and what machine and user. I'm going to use CSS user. That's my username at, and then what machine, and I'm going to type in my address here. So I'm going to remember my address here is 140 that. So I'm going to add, 137.135.56.69 here. When it's the first time you've secured Shell, it'll ask you if that's right. If you want to connect that machine, you're going to say yes. And now I'm in on this remote machine. Oh, I'm sorry, I got this wrong. Okay, I did not copy the address correctly into here. I was using an old IP address for another system. So I'm going to go CSS user, and then I was wondering why it was in a 143.110. All Saints Glasgow machine should be 143.110 dot something. I wasn't thinking. Okay, 214. So that'll connect up. Password. Type in my password here. Again, I type it in, it doesn't display here. I just type it in and enter. Now I'm here. I'm logged in as CSS user at Raspberry Pi. So again, this is my Windows machine logged in, but it should look similar to this. This is my actual Raspberry Pi. So again, I can do commands like ls-al to see the folders, and it should look the same as if I'm here looking at these folders. But again, I'm on my, let's see, I'm in my Raspberry Pi. I'm in PowerShell, secure shelled into this. So this shell is basically the same here. So I can, again, print working directory. I'm at home/c user at my Raspberry Pi. Similar here, print working directory. Here, if I look at my host name, -i here, that's my address. And again, here, my host name -i is, again, so we're connected here. So we're connected there. So I can do any of these commands here, and we want to take a screenshot of your secure shell. So take a screenshot of this, or a photo, whatever, print that in. Now, if I exit, I get out of here and just a normal shell. So now I'm no longer logged into Raspberry Pi. I'm now logged in as in my Windows folder here, and I can type exit here to get out of that. Okay, so that's this process. The next process talks about connecting up a remote desktop. And that lets you basically look at the Raspberry Pi in a shell, and that's actually what I am using here to so I can record it. But I'm going to get out of this here and close this and connect this up again. Okay, so shouldn't have done that. Let's wait. Okay, so first I'm going to go to my Raspberry Pi and create this user here, remote user. And again, if you did above, you don't have to worry about it otherwise, because when you connect up remotely, you have to have a separate user for that. So I'm going to go sudo add user and remote user. And again, it can be any name we want, but I'm just creating that. Now, for me, it's asking me for the password for the CSS user to verify that I want to be a super user here. So I'm just going to type in CSS user there. And it's going to tell me remote user already exists because I already created that. So if you haven't created your remote user ID, do that here. Okay, so then we want to go and install this program in here. So I'm going to copy this command. Oops, open up my command line again and paste that in there. Again, sometimes when I'm pasting in from a website, it gets it all wrong there. So, okay, sudo apt-get. So I'm going to get that started and type that in. Okay, sudo that apt-get. So this is running. This is super user. apt is a package installer. I'm going to say install what? Install this package. Now I've already got that package installed, so it didn't do anything. Really said everything looks fine. When you do it the first time, it'll take quite a while to install this package and all the dependencies. So it'll install this remote desktop client here, and it should get it up and running. And again, we need to figure out our host name here. So host name -i is this name here. Okay, so we've got that set up. Now we're going to go back to Windows. So I'm going to get out of the Raspberry Pi here, and I'm going to go to Windows. I'm going to click on the Windows thing and start typing remote and click remote desktop connection app. So that'll open up this remote desktop connection app here. Here's my remote desktop connection. I'm going to click on Show Options here so I can type in a username. Usually I connect with CSS user, but again, I don't want, if I'm already have my Pi set up and logged in as CSS user, I don't want to connect that. So I'm going to connect up as remote user. So again, if you're not already logged in as your normal login, you can, but again, you can only have one kind of desktop open at a time for every user. So that's why we created this new remote user. And again, this should be my address. I should type in the address of my Raspberry Pi, which I saved over here. Okay, so that and remote user for that. Okay, so I connect. It's asking for my remote user credential, so I think I just created that with remote as the password, and it's connecting up to that. So now it's opened up my Raspberry Pi thing. It's asked me if, it's again, depending on how your users are set up, it may ask you for that. I have a number of users set up. So now I'm going to connect up as remote user, and my password is remote here. So now I've got a Raspberry Pi. So again, I'm remote desktoped into my Raspberry Pi. So I'm actually on a Windows machine, but this is just the remote desktop into that Raspberry Pi for you to see. So again, take a picture of this on your Windows machine and here. Now, sometimes it'll bring up this. I'm surprised this one didn't. It brought up some other window, but usually it brings up this login screen after you connect up. It'll ask you username and password. This is like the Linux version of this login. So if you see that, just type in remote user or whatever user you want to log into, and then for me, the password for remote user was remote here. And again, take a screenshot of that and post it in here. Okay, I have a separate video for this, so I'm going to wrap this one up here.